Whoa! Look at that!
This is a big fish.
Oh my God!
Let's begin with a quick little history lesson about the great dams that control water flow through a few of our key states. Our nation's longest river, the Missouri, contains 6 main dams in the upper Missouri River Basin. They include Fort Peck in northeast Montana, Garrison Dam in central North Dakota, Walleye near Pierce, South Dakota, Big Bend in central South Dakota, Fort Randall Dam, and Gavin's Point Dam, located on the Nebraska-South Dakota border. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Bureau of Reclamation built a lot of these dams as public work projects during the Great Depression. The goal was to provide relief for the unemployed and poor, recovery of the economy, and reform of the financial system to prevent a repeat of the Depression. The Mississippi River, as another example, travels 2,340 miles from Minnesota to the Gulf of Mexico and has 29 locks and dams in between. Winding through 990 miles of Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska, with more than a dozen dams regulating water flow, the Platte River is yet another. These dams were built for multiple purposes: to provide flood control, generate electricity, and store water for municipal use, irrigation, and navigation. Initially overlooked were the fantastic recreational opportunities these huge impoundments would provide later. But sportsmen soon found out what tremendous fisheries these reservoirs would be, and as you're about to see, Lake McConaughy is no exception. Dams, by definition, turn rivers into reservoirs, and today, Cabela's representative Ryan Bowers and I hit Lake McConaughy, a reservoir created by the Kingsley Dam near Ogallala, Nebraska.
The interesting thing about reservoir fishing is it's a different fishery every year because of water levels.
Oh, absolutely.
We're setting 60% full, and you know how all these trees got here, wasn't too many years ago, we were only about 20% of capacity in this reservoir. So trees came up, made some habitat for the fish, and makes it awful snaggy, which you'll soon find out.
Oh, I reckon.
Crankbaits today. I grew up in Nebraska, and Lake McConaughy was one of the main lakes that we fished as I grew up as a kid. My dad always took us fishing wherever he went, and every weekend in the summer was a fishing trip. So got some really good memories of Lake McConaughy and the fish that we've caught and the family experiences throughout the years.
Lake McConaughy was built in the early 1940s. It was built as an irrigation storage reservoir for the Central Nebraska Public Power and Irrigation District. It took about 5 to 6 years to fill the lake, and it sat full for most of the 70s and 80s and started to develop as a recreational resource with fishing, wildlife, and water sports recreation.
Quite a bit of fish here. It's got to be a pike.
Another one.
Okay, I'm gonna take it out of gear.
Okay. I'm gonna reel this other one up real quick.
Hey, can you believe it? A double header?
Finally some action.
I got a pike. Nice size one. That a walleye?
Nope, another pike.
During construction for the dam, there was no concrete brought in or anything like that like a common dam people would see as the face of Hoover Dam. It's all concrete. This dam, some pilings were driven down into the Brule clay, and then basically they dredged out all of the clay from what is now Lake Ogallala and packed it on itself and built it up until it was a 3.5 mile long dam, and then covered the Lake McConaughy side with rocks to prevent erosion. So the entire dam is actually made of dirt.
There's one. Oh, that's a fish. It's like a northern.
It looks pretty good.
Well, just a few years ago, you could fish all year and not catch a pike. And we had some high water, and I don't know, the theory me and some of my friends have come up with is they washed out of all those sloughs up and down the North Platte River and washed in here because it went from no pike to instant 5 to 7 pound pike. Nice healthy fish.
Absolutely.
Starting in the late 1990s, the mid-plains were really hit with a substantial drought, one of the worst we've ever had. And over time, that caused Lake McConaughy to drop substantially in water levels, falling to almost less than 20% at one point in the mid-2000s.
There's one. Here you go, babe.
And so a lot of new water conservation efforts were introduced by Central Nebraska Public Power and Irrigation District to conserve water in Lake McConaughy, not only for recreational resources, but for their own viability as a surface water irrigator as well. Since then, we've actually filled up in 2010 and 2011, and then dropped back down to the mid-60s in percentage to right now.
Little walleye.
Oh boy. First walleye of the day.
Start.
Look at how fat he is for his length. It's a little toad. He'd be great to eat.
Yep.
Continuing now at Lake McConaughy, after a day's worth of trolling over timber, we switched to a live bait rigging approach.
It always amazes me with reservoir fishing how the bite changes almost day to day, you know.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you got a good one there.
Oh boy.
They're here today, gone tomorrow. And you constantly have to change your techniques to stay on the fish.
Yeah, you want the net on this one. I'm telling you. That's a nice fish. Yes.
There you go.
How'd you like to be here with us now in McConaughy, huh? Well, that's nice fish. When I set the hook, though, I thought he was 2 or 3 times that size.
Primary, most sought after species, fish species is the walleye. It's king here at Lake McConaughy. We have the best of both worlds. We have quantity and quality. The fish here are very plump.
What's the biggest fish you've caught out of McConaughy?
I caught a 30.5 incher that weighed 13.6. Caught it on November 30th. In 63 foot of water on a jigging plant.
63 feet? Holy buckets. Oh, yeah, this is a good fish.
We have a number of Master Angler Award fish that are caught each year at Lake McConaughy.
Perfect. Boy, they're so fat.
That's pretty much an average size, 17, 18-inch fish.
Qualifying weight is 8 pounds, by length 28 inches. There were 60-some Master Angler Awards recorded from Lake McConaughy last year.
Pretty good fish.
Need me to get the net?
Yeah, this one might be a netter, babe. Fighting down hard.
Old clay face there. Good job. I gotta get this boat spun.
Thank you, sir. Nice one.
That's a fat one.
Looks like about a 22-incher.
Well, we've kind of settled into a pretty solid pattern here. We're on a big sand point that comes up and just drift and leaches. We're using a trolling motor to control drift. You said they spawn on the dam. Do they get a good spawn off here?
You know, they spawn heavy on the dam.
Fish?
Yep. They spawn heavy on the dam, but the natural reproduction is very limited.
That's a little fella.
They have a pretty aggressive stocking program though here in Nebraska. You know, it seems like most classes of fish are represented in the fishery.
With our walleye stockings, we prefer to use fingerling stockings rather than fry. The alewife can be very competitive and they can be predatory on eggs and juvenile larval fish.
There's fish. Oh, that felt wonderful.
Looks like a good one.
It is. Nice eye.
I'm gonna go to the front of the boat and net it.
Nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, that one could be a little long.
That's a fatty.
I would like to believe that these year classes will carry for a number of years, and we have multiple year classes. It's not that we're all focused on one individual year class. If the reservoir level does decline, their spawning success in future years will probably decline also, but they have an opportunity in a forage-rich body of water with the shad and the alewife to continue to grow and get quite large.
Fish on!
Oh, there we are. There you go. Any bigness?
Fighter.
Well, that's a good sign. Nice fish.
Yeah, thank you.
We're getting into them now.
Yeah, this is fun.
I don't care how you catch your fish.
I don't either. That looks like good fish.
It is. This is a real nice fish. As a matter of fact, that's another fat one to keep, which means we are done keeping. Good job, man.
Yeah, fun day.
I enjoy fishing with you a lot.
Yeah, it was fun. We went out on the water today after a great leech bite yesterday and could barely get a bite in the same location. Knew there was fish there, but couldn't get any action. So we had to switch over to crankbaits, and you know, fishing 10 foot of water, pulling a crankbait 5 feet down was the secret. Fish on.
There we go. Good one?
Yeah, it is a good one.
Teamwork is essential when trolling crankbaits, especially when other boats are around or when you're trolling through timber with lots of snags and hazards.
Nice job. It didn't take long.
No, on the flicker or on the little hornet? You always have got to be prepared to switch. I mean, what happened yesterday doesn't count today. You got to find out what the fish want today in order to do any good. And it sounds like we got one. Get him if you got him.
Okay.
That didn't take too long. There's so much we will never learn about fish, you know, Ryan?
Wouldn't hit a crank yesterday and went crazy on the bait, and today just the opposite. Guess what color?
The new one we just put on?
Yeah.
Fire Tiger?
Now that
Oh,
hot perch. Lake McConaughy is a tough lake to fish because there's limited structure in here. Fish on, babe. There's a few long sand points with tapering flats that tend to hold the most fish, and they tend to get fairly crowded.
like a fish.
And just because you pull in on a place like this and it's crowded doesn't mean that everybody's using the technique and everybody's catching
Pretty good,
fish the same
actually.
way. You got to continually switch it up and offer the fish what they're asking for. Walleye, nice walleye.
Beauteous.
Good one. With our trolling techniques, we set up with 2 rods with no stretch line, 20-pound test, and then 2 rods with lead core line with 17-pound leaders on them. Fish on.
Get him. Is it feeling like
About a 17-incher.
a walleye, huh?
Boat control is always a key element, and figuring out how to pattern the fish on a daily basis takes constant adjustments. Precision boat control is essential for staying in the strike zone.
Babe, fish on.
All right. Oh, nice fish. Of course, at 2 miles an hour, if you had an old Campbell soup can, it would feel pretty good. He's not that big.
I need to quit laying that there, don't I?
Well, what do you think? Should we wrap?
Yep, it's been a great trip.
It has been a great trip. But thanks.
Thank you. And
Thanks for my second trip back to McConaughy.
It's been fun.
Have to do it again. After a spectacular day on the water, it's time to head in for some much needed grub. Otter Creek Lodge, located on the northwest shores of Lake McConaughy, is a cozy family-run business and our home for this trip.
Did your steak get done?
My steak is done plenty.
Chicken's great.
It was a big one. Yeah, isn't that roasted chicken good? I had it last night.
Really good.
With friendly and accommodating people, clean cabins, and excellent home-cooked food, it's the perfect place to stay while visiting the McConaughy area. You know, fishing isn't a hobby to me. It's something I have to do and want to do, but it's firmly rooted in my blood and soul. And that's why I've come to appreciate guys like Ryan. He has as much passion for fishing in the outdoors as I do.
You know, I really like fishing with Babe. Him and I get along great. For some reason, we think alike. You know, I'll reach in the cooler to grab a night crawler, and he says, oh, I was thinking about doing that same thing. You know, I'll be thinking we should be trolling crankbaits instead of live bait rigging right now, and 2 minutes later he'll say the same thing. So we really work well together and enjoy being around each other and keep in touch and really look at him as a true friend.
He's a hammer. He just loves it. He comes from the same kind of background I do. He goes about things the same way I do. We became instant friends after a few days of fishing together and just decided, hey, we not only like one another, but we like fishing together. We work well as a team. And that, my friends, is something I appreciate and respect. You see, fishing isn't only about what you catch. Equally rewarding is the time you spend with whoever you're catching them with. I'm Babe Winkelman. Thanks so much for watching today, and until next time, everybody, hey, good fishing.